for you. What is 240 feet high, 400 feet long, and was one of the most important tools in getting those Apollo astronauts to the moon? If you're thinking, it's got to be some kind of a rocket, right? Like the Saturn V, perhaps. Well, you're absolutely wrong. While the Saturn V was important, the astronauts had to train in real-world conditions here on Earth before they landed on the moon. Where would they train for that? At this giant erector set. It used to be called the Lunar Landing Research Facility, but now it's known by people at NASA as the gantry. Back around 1965, it was determined that we needed a place to help Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and 22 other astronauts learn how to land a spacecraft on the moon. This new state-of-the-art training facility needed to feel and look like the moon. So engineers built this large, and I'm talking 240 feet high, 400 feet long, remember? A-frame structure with an overhead suspension system. They attached a spacecraft. The pilot would train to land the craft in simulated 1/6 gravity, which is the gravity of the moon. Engineers also built a landscape that looked just like the lunar surface, with craters, dust, just about everything. All this training came in handy when Neil Armstrong, flying Apollo 11, had to take the spacecraft out of automatic mode and land manually on the moon. You see, the auto mode of the Apollo 11 spacecraft had it headed directly for a huge crater. With less than 30 seconds of fuel left, Armstrong landed the craft safely on flat ground and made history as the first person to ever step on the moon. That's one small step for man, and well, you know the rest. Back here on Earth, what happened to the gantry after the Apollo mission? Well, some really smart people at NASA decided, I think we could use this to crash test airplanes. Yeah, crash test real airplanes for a living. Similar to how cars are crash tested to make them safer, NASA researchers basically do the same thing with airplanes, crash dummies and all. What they do is hook up an airplane to a large steel cable and swing it like a pendulum down to the ground and test how the plane handled the crash. What they found was that many of the crashes that seemed survivable were not. The planes looked to be in pretty good shape, but sensors embedded in the crash test dummies showed the occupants wouldn't have survived. That really stinks for you guys, but it's great news for all of us who fly on airplanes. Because of this research, NASA figured out ways to build airframes and aircraft seats to keep more people around in case of an accident. After, they sent these recommendations on to airplane manufacturers. Changes were made to incorporate these life-saving improvements. All right, now that NASA is planning to go back to the moon and send humans onto Mars, do you think they're still using the gantry for training? Of course they are. In fact, they are currently testing a new crew exploration vehicle. It's called Orion. And it's really exciting. So how will NASA use the old gantry on their new mission back to the moon and Mars? Before the space shuttle, astronauts used to arrive home by splashing into the ocean. Well, Orion might use that same idea. Or they may land in a desert in California using parachutes and good old airbags. Researchers at the gantry have been testing the bottom outer shell of the Orion spacecraft to see how the airbags perform on land. Researchers placed dirt that is very similar to the dirt in California and spread it out over the gantry floor. Then they swung the test vehicle up and released it. Looks like the old gantry is still pulling its weight after all these years. And you know, NASA isn't just planning on going back to the moon one day. Oh, they're planning on sending humans to Mars. This is going to be a completely different type of mission, never done before. So we have to develop tons of new technology to get us there. New spacecrafts to different types of food preparation, and even new spacesuits.